And let's quickly go live across to Washington, D.C., from where DD India's senior correspondent Shubhendu Ghosh joins us live. Good morning to you, Shubhendu. It's a chilly morning out there, but lots to look forward as far as the entire media is concerned, especially India. Well, take us through, first of all, the engagements of Honorable Prime Minister. It's a packed visit, 36 hours nearly. What all is expected?
Absolutely. Good morning from a very chilly Washington, D.C., Sakal, but the focus of the day is going to be the warmth of relations between India and the United States as the first meeting takes place between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Donald Trump in the new administration. Yes, it's a very, very packed visit. Since last evening, the moment Prime Minister arrived in Washington, D.C., the bilaterals, the engagements with the heads of different departments of the new administration had started. We saw Tulsi Gabbard calling on Prime Minister Narendra Modi last evening. Today also there are a series of engagements lined up. Vivek Ramaswamy, Elon Musk are all scheduled to call on Prime Minister before the big meeting takes place post-lunch between President Donald Trump and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Host of issues we know are in focus in this particular meeting. It is expected to really lay down the roadmap for these two leaders to take forward as far as India-America relations are concerns. Also, the personal rapport, the warmth that the two leaders share, the trust factor, the manner in which it will be conveyed through their body language is something that one will have to look out for. So a lot that is going to happen today. Sakal, focus on India-US ties.
Okay, the fact that Prime Minister Modi is the fourth foreign leader to visit Trump post him taking over the presidency sort of underscores the significance Trump's administration attaches to India under the dispensation of Prime Minister Modi. What are the sentiments there as far as the US side is concerned?
Absolutely, Sakal, there is no doubt about it. Both sides have time and again, and in a very bipartisan way, have conveyed that the India-United States relationship is the most indispensable relationship, diplomatic relationship, international partnership to look out for in the 21st century, is the most consequential one. We look at any area where these countries engage. We talk about trade. America is India's largest trade partner. We talk about the strategic partnership, which is greatly in focus throughout in the recent years, especially in the domain of Indo-Pacific. We know that alongside Australia and Japan, India and United States are key members and are going to be in the years ahead particularly responsible for the manner in which free and fair Indo-Pacific, the vision of that is made possible. So you name it, the area and India-US ties become hugely important. The Trump administration understands that very clearly. Also the kind of tariff tussle that it is engaging with in China in many ways, whether it is supply chain, whether it is critical mineral, defense co-production. India is seen as a important, viable, equal partner with the United States. So no wonder that's so early into the administration coming to power, the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is here to hold talks with President Donald Trump.
Okay, Shubhendu, one final question. You know, the reaction of the Indian diaspora is always, though we don't have an Howdy event scheduled this time around, but then we saw those visuals, how the Indian community members waited in chilly winters to welcome Prime Minister Modi. Did you get to speak to the diaspora? How are they looking at this visit?
Oh yes, Sakal, and it is interesting that not every sentiment may be expressed in numbers. So there may not be a mega diaspora program scheduled at this time. But coming back to what we were talking about in the beginning of our conversation, it's a very, very cold weather in Washington, D.C. It snowed a couple of days back. It was raining yesterday when the diaspora members under the open sky were waiting to meet and greet Prime Minister Narendra Modi. All of them very excited. Children, people of all age groups, despite the bitter cold, all excited to meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And they're also excited with the work that the two leaders, President Trump and Prime Minister Modi, together are likely to do towards taking India-US ties forward. In that sense, there's a lot of investment of faith and confidence and also in the friendship of the two leaders, Prime Minister
And-
Modi
and
and
what
President
is-
Trump. So
yes.
in that sense, the diaspora is quite kicked.
Yes. And what does the U.S. establishment intend to invest in? Shubedu, just stay with us. We are going to go, in fact, let's quickly welcome Richard Rosso joining us live from Washington, D.C. as Shubedu also stays with us on this broadcast. Richard Rosso is the Senior Advisor and Chair in U.S.-India Policy Studies at CSIS. Thank you very much, Richard. It's such a pleasure and an honor for us to have you on the National News Broadcaster of India, DD India. To begin with, take us through the symbolism and in fact more of a substance may be attached to this visit of Prime Minister Modi in Trump 2.0 administration. From American perspective, run us through the significance of this visit.
Well, when we think about whether it's commercial relations, security relations, or even people-to-people ties, India plays very high to any American administration on all three fronts. India is one of our 10 largest commercial trade partners. And when you think about India in the next 4 years is going to jump over both Japan as well as Germany and become the world's third largest economy, we got to get the economic relationship right. It's already pretty good, but there's always more that we can do. On the second front, when you think about strategic ties, India is not one of our core security partners like NATO, but we do see a lot of overlap in terms of security cooperation, shared concerns about the rise of China. And so there's a lot of good things that we can do in that space. And then people to people, the largest source of students coming and visiting from overseas is from India, technology workers. So a lot happening on the people to people side as well. So not surprising that India has pride of place as one of the first leaders to come in, that President Trump has personally said that he wanted to make sure that he really does build up this relationship, because in all the main fronts, there's not a lot of more important places that we can put a big bet.
There's going to be a lot of thrust on investments and job creation. Trade, like you just mentioned, is going to apparently figure in the conversations today. Rosso, if you could just take us through those high points, though there are no technically any bilateral meetings, but he's going to be meeting some of the key cabinet members of the Trump administration. So I think that makes it very, significant in terms of the final deliverables or outcomes.
Yeah, I think we have some idea about what both leaders want to get out of the summit. From President Trump's viewpoint, as I know has been discussed quite a bit, they'd like to see India announce more purchases of U.S. goods, and in particular the things the government of India actually controls. So that's typically defense items and hydrocarbons. Second, President Trump would love for Prime Minister Modi to really give a nudge to Indian industry to make more investments in the United States and build jobs and create more economic opportunities here in the United States. And third, India, because of the Make in India program, has adopted some measures that have actually closed the market a bit to U.S. exports, customs duty increases, local manufacturing rules, and seeing some of that get removed would be on President Trump's shortlist. From India's standpoint, the United States is by far the top destination for exports, so they want to avoid a larger trade war, and finding ways to accommodate President Trump's interest is going to be important. India's got some ability right now to push President Trump on relaxing export controls on sensitive items like defense equipment. I think President Trump is more likely to do that, to increase exports, rather than being overly concerned about security-related measures. And I think so. When you look at both sides, there's a lot on the table right now. I suspect we'll see announcements in most of these areas, including as well immigration and the joint statement later today. So a lot on the table that's going to really help companies on both sides do a bit more business with each other.
Okay, just stay with us. Let me take this point to my colleague, Richard, just stay with us, to my colleague Shubedu. Shubedu, you want to come in here on that point of, talks particularly revolving around H-1B visa holders, smoothening visa process, because in the education vector, students, you had that interaction with a couple of students there, Indian students there. So you think this is going to come up when the two leaders talk, something related to this?
That is hugely significant, Sakal, as our guest just mentioned, that India, in fact, is the largest center of foreign students to United States. The number stands at roughly 3.3 lakh Indian students studying in American universities. Many, these are top universities, many would like an opportunity to work here. But the people we spoke to, the students, they shared that the H-1B visa, although the larger percentage of it is Indian students who get the benefit of it, but there is still a degree of randomness in which it's allocated. They would like a more merit-driven list as far as H-1B visa, more certainty, more clarity in the way these policies are taken forward. We understand that President Donald Trump's priorities, his vision of Make America Great Again, also involves a certain degree of protectionism. Now, that we'll have to see the manner in which that can coexist, complement the partnership with countries like India. So those are some elements where youngsters, students who are looking to make a future in the United States in particular would like more clarity. Thousands of qualified Indians, doctors, engineers come here, deliver their services, contribute to the American economy. They would also like more clarity on the manner in which they can create a future for themselves and also for India and the U.S.
Yes. Richard, your thoughts on that, and also on the fact that the U.S. has recognized India as one of its key partners in maintaining regional stability. In the recent past, we have seen, irrespective of the administration there, the revival of Quad and the important initiatives that the both nations have taken in terms of ensuring regional stability, regional security. Your thoughts on that, Indo-Pacific specifically?
I think both countries, while we very much understand India's stated policy of multi-alignment, I know there's various terms we use it, but there is not a lot of daylight that we both consider China to be the greatest threat to security across the Indo-Pacific. And so, at least on that, there's a lot of complementarity. The question is, which part of the geography do we consider most important? To most American security analysts, when you think about the threat China poses, it's South China Sea, it's the Taiwan Straits, the East China Sea, maybe even islands in the middle of the Pacific. To Indian analysts, for obvious reasons, you think about the border issue, you think about China's continued incursions in Bhutan, you think about the PLA Navy's expanded presence in the Indian Ocean. So that's really the job that leaders have to do now, is not so much agreeing that China is a threat that we need to collaborate on, but which geography, how can India be more present in the Pacific theater, and how can the United States be more present in the Indian Ocean region? I don't think India wants American presence on the border or something like that, but there is some work that we can do to try to make sure that we're accommodating each other's interests, but no daylight in the question about whether China presents the biggest threat in the Indo-Pacific. So that's certainly a good base to be able to do some big things on. But luckily, India actually is starting to resolve some of its tension points, which we all love to see. In the United States, there's some question about whether Trump might be able to initiate a big deal, a grand bargain with China that will reduce some of our tensions, at least on trade front. So, we stand strong together in hopes that we can actually get a more accommodating China and reduce the points of tension.
How do you see the relationship growing from strategic partner to this indispensable, if I may be allowed to use this word, ally? Subhedu, this one for you, and perhaps Richard can also come in here. Relationship with United States, especially Trump-Modi, the way it's panned out since 2017. Subhedu, and then Richard on that.
Absolutely. There are many aspects to it, Sakal, especially in strategic terms. So we know the significance of Quad cannot be underrated, especially given the kind of importance that the region of Indo-Pacific has assumed in the current times. And remember, it was President Donald Trump in his tenure one, in Trump 1.0, is when he had revived the Quad, and from there on we've seen it going from strength to strength. In that sense, the two leaders, their shared concerns, the opportunities that exist, a Quad is, as they've time and again said, is not a military alliance against any country, but an alliance of like-minded democratic countries to take forward the values, to ensure a free and open Indo-Pacific for the benefit of all countries, not just these four, but there are hundreds of other small island countries also in the region. So in that sense, the priority and the convergence that India and the United States have in these areas of cooperation is very significant. Counter-terrorism is also something which is very close to both the leaders. They would like to keep that as a priority, put their resources together. Sharing of intelligence is hugely significant between India and the U.S. So all these areas, Sakal, where these two countries working together under leadership of Prime Minister Modi and President Trump, who understand one another better, and the sort of rapport that they have right at the top, that helps also cascade that sense of cooperation and efficiency in the administration of both the countries in critical issues.
Okay, taking a cue from there, Richard, how do you see this relationship trajectory from Howdy Trump to today when they meet in White House? Yes.
In Trump last term, I think India and a lot of other partners in the Indo-Pacific felt that, frankly, the U.S. Strategy towards China was evolving far too slowly, considering the rising number of threats that China posed, not just on trade, but on territorial issues and global governance issues, things like that. With President Trump, who's willing to throw convention totally out the window and press reset on every form of governance, as we're certainly seeing in the second term, to see that quick snap and to articulate China as a threat and an enemy, really gave confidence to a lot of our partners in the region that the United States was suddenly kind of catching up to the fact that China was already belligerent and aggressive with a lot of countries, including India. And that meant, as you rightly point out, the revival of the Quad, which it existed at kind of an assistant secretary level, but he took it to a minister level. And of course, President Biden took it to a leader level, but also a lot of significant programs that were launched bilaterally between the United States and India. President Trump willing to remove some controls on export of critical technologies. So, for instance, armed maritime drones, that was not on the table in the Obama administration, but President Trump authorized and allowed that to happen. You saw a signing of agreements that improve operational interoperability between our two militaries, and President Biden took that to a different level as well. You saw operational issues begin to pick up, where India joined Combined Maritime Force Bahrain. Several Indian shipyards can now allow U.S. Navy vessels to dock there. The one big question I've got on this security partnership, something that India wants a lot, is tech transfer. They want to do co-development of new technologies with U.S. support. And President Trump very focused on sales, not helping others become manufacturing giants and competitive with the United States. That's the one area that we'll have to see if there's any space and daylight for that level of cooperation to kind of continue, which has been something, of course, India wants quite a bit.
Shubhendu, you want to come in here because as Tulsi Gabbard takes over the top intelligence office on Wednesday, and she calls on Prime Minister, and Rosso also pointed out the collaboration in the counter-terrorism. In fact, you also spoke about it. So if you could just connect the dots, and what are you really picking up there? How significant are these meetings? Some of the names we can see in media there, that the meetings that are scheduled reportedly in Blair House today. So the contours of this visit are slowly getting defined in terms of outcomes.
Absolutely. The very names that appear in the bilateral engagement list, Sakal, by itself says volumes about the kind of priorities that India and America lay on issues of security, counter-terror and intelligence sharing. Also, I just want to go back to the point about Trump administration 1.0, when they're still sort of trying to navigate through deciding the manner in which they are going to be dealing with China. But here in Trump 2.0, the choices that President Trump has made, whether it is Secretary of State Marco Rubio or others, we see there is a leadership, there is an entire galaxy, there's an entire administrative structure which is full of pro-India leaders. So in that sense, the Trump administration is very clear about who its closest friends and the greatest adversaries are going to be, and that would from here on determine the kind of policies that are set ahead. Much has been said about a certain tariff diplomacy, a tariff tussle that President Trump had engaged with immediately coming into office. But we saw that after announcing Mexico, Canada and China, the real tariffs were really levied against China only. So in that sense, there is a great degree of clarity about the convergence as far as the priorities of America is concerned. Vis-a-vis India, there are a host of areas where cooperation can be taken forward. As a guest just mentioned, that India would like the idea of co-production of technology. Make in India, its vision in many ways also resonates with President Trump's Make in America.
Right.
So in that sense, that what really makes a day like this very exciting, because although it's a very close partnership, the leaders trust one another, but there is a degree of hard negotiation that is going to take place, which is what is going to make the outcome equally significant. What is the manner in which Make in America and Make in India
come
can
together,
coexist and complement one another to
Yes.
just talk about one aspect. Yeah.
Yes, you're right. I mean, I think you've beautifully pointed out Make in India and Make America Great coming together, convergence of this, very thought in respective administrations. Richard, your final comments, taking cue from what my colleague Shubedu talked about. I mean, do you also think it's going to be very interesting to see how these two leaders, considering the kind of rapport that they've shared, and one from the world's oldest to the one's largest democracies, both leaders coming together?
Yeah, I think on that point of Make America Great Again and Make in India, last time President Trump was in office, both leaders thought about that in terms of a semiconductor, a computer, something like that. And when you think about the final product, and we both want to race to become the major producers, it was a cause of a lot of trade friction last time that President Trump was in office. You saw a medium intensity trade war during that period. I think India's developed a bit of a more nuanced thinking about manufacturing. It is part about being inducted into global supply chains, and the fact that India dropped customs duties on intermediate goods, on capital equipment. There, I think you begin to see what these two programs might actually do. If American companies making that capital equipment, the intermediate goods, the basic goods, can find exports that help Make in India become successful. So there is space, I think, that wasn't there 8 years ago for these two programs to work together. But you're going to have to work with nuance and precision to find those areas, find the companies who are going to take advantage of it, and hopefully we'll see some good announcements today in the statement.
All right. Thank you very much. We leave it on that note. Richard Rosso, Senior Advisor and Chair in U.S.-India Policy Studies. Such a pleasure having you on our broadcast. See you again. Thank you, Richard. Namaste. Namaste. And Shubendu, you have a long day ahead. Thank you very much as of now for joining us from this cold, chilly Washington, D.C. Both of you gentlemen, thank you. Thank you.